Y'all, this cat thinks my baby's bed is his bed. Oh my goodness. Hey guys, it's Danielle, and I am going to do just a little talk with you guys today. So if you're not aware, November is Adoption Awareness Month, and my hope and my goal is to every day kind of sit down, or at least every other day. I don't know if I'll do it every day, but sit down and just chat about adoption and our journey and just all things adoption this month. So as we're going through this, if you guys have any questions about adoption, please leave them in the comments and I'll do my very best to answer them as we do our little chats. So I thought it'd be fun if we got our tea. So you guys go grab you a cup of tea or a glass of wine or a cup of coffee or whatever, and let's chat. So adoption. Today I'm just gonna start with why we decided to adopt. So today I'm just gonna talk about why I chose to adopt, all of that good stuff. So for me, I always knew I wanted to adopt. When I was younger, I always talked about it, not in the best of ways. As a child, I used to say I was going to adopt a baby from every single country and raise them all together, and we were going to be like this rainbow family. So as a child, you know, my dream was to adopt internationally and just really have this colorful family. It didn't quite pan out that way. It kind of changed and evolved as I got older and matured a little bit, although I think that that still is an awesome kind of dream. But I don't really know, like, as a child, how or what sparked that fire in me to want to adopt. I can't really pinpoint the exact moment that I knew I wanted to adopt, but I will say that my grandmother was adopted and she did not have the best experience being adopted, and I remember her talking about it, and then she later adopted. So I have an adopted uncle. Because her adoption experience wasn't that great, she wanted to kind of change the system, and so she did adopt my uncle and wanted to adopt more children, but her and my grandfather went through a divorce, and so that never happened for her. So adoption was talked about openly in my family. Like we talked about it all the time. Just really briefly, my mom was a teenage mother, and initially they were going to put me up for adoption, but my grandmother changed her mind at the last minute and couldn't do it just because of her experience being adopted. So she had such a horrific experience, a lot of abuse and things like that. So so I didn't get put up for adoption. And fast forward, I was also a teenage mother, and we talked about putting my son up for adoption, and if that was something that I wanted to do. And we looked into some close family members who couldn't have a child, and ultimately I decided to parent my son. So so adoption was always kind of entwined in my family, and I don't really know if that is why the feeling on my heart was always there. I don't really know, but I just knew I wanted to adopt. So moving forward into adulthood, it changed, and I initially said, okay, I want to have 4 biological kids and I want to adopt 2 kids. I still thought that I wanted to adopt internationally. My tea is so hot. So still had the desire to adopt internationally, but scaled that down and was like, oh, I only want to adopt 2 children. And so still knew, like, I knew that I would adopt. So when I met my husband, I had told him, you know, oh, my desire is to have 6 kids, and I want to adopt 2, and I want to have 3 girls and 3 boys, and, you know, that whole, because we could totally gender plan. And he initially was not on board. Like, he kind of was like, oh, okay, you know, we were just dating, talking at the time, so I was like, oh, okay, well, that sounds great. Not really thinking that, yes, this is like strongly on my heart. So we eventually got married, and when my daughter was, we had 3 kids, so we had one, my son, and then me and my husband had 2 girls. And when our youngest was about a year old or so, maybe a little bit younger, I finally said to him, hey, I think I'm ready to pursue adoption now. And he was kind of like, no, I don't know. And at that time, my idea of what I wanted at that time changed. At that time, I decided that I wanted to adopt an older child. So the calling on my heart had moved from this whole international rainbow family to international to stateside, black child, male, older. So those were like my 4 things that I wanted. I had started a mentor group for girls, teenage girls, and was totally engrossed in that. But I had 2 daughters, and so I realized that there, like, I guess at that time the adoption rate for older boys was so low. Like, that was a class that people just did not want to touch. Most people want a baby. I mean, that's given. If most people who are adopting, it's usually because they can't have a child and they want a baby. Understandable. And then for those who do elect to have an older child, usually, of course, it's going to be, you know, a white child or international. And if they are even going to dip into the idea of a black child, it's going to be a female usually. And that was during that time. It's changed so much over the years, but during that time, that was basically how it was. And so I had a strong desire to adopt an older male child. I just felt that that was a huge need, and I felt like our family would be a great place to bring that child into. Having a male child come into a stable black family with what I felt was an excellent black father role figure. So that's where I was. My husband was kind of like, oh, I don't know, you know, maybe we should wait. And I think really he didn't really have a desire to adopt, and so it was kind of like, I don't know, let's wait, maybe now's not the time. And just kind of, he kind of really, I want to say he wasn't really on board. And I don't know, maybe I'll bring him into one of these videos and ask him what changed his mind. But I was like, okay. And so I just kind of left it alone. A few months later, I didn't leave it alone long. I came back. I'm like, you know, I really feel like we should, let me go back, you guys, because I just thought about how I skipped a whole important section of this. We were foster parents long before I brought up. So when I was mentoring the girls, one of my girls that I was mentoring got taken from her mom, and none of her family wanted her, and they called me. Actually, the girls from my mentor group called me and was like, you know, Miss Tanya, such and such was taken by DCS and blah blah blah. And so I called DCS and was like, hey, you know, she's in my mentor group, is there any way that she can come stay with me? And they were like, absolutely, and you know, blah blah. So she came to stay with us, and she was 12 at the time. And so that, I believe, elicited my desire for an older child. But she came to stay with us, and we went through the whole PATH classes, and we fostered her. And we ended up not adopting her, and it stung us. It literally left a scar on our hearts. We were young, and I had just graduated, and we had a baby, our first baby together, and we were both working. It was just so many things, y'all, and we didn't know. We really didn't know. And so so that happened. And honestly, I think that left a mark on my husband. So now, fast forward back. So I come back to him a few months later, and I'm like, I really think we should do this. You know, I really feel this desire. And we had that whole incident with fostering, and I just don't, you know, I really feel like we should do it, and maybe let's just consider foster care. And later on, he came back to me and said, I think you're right, let's do it. So we dived in. So I don't know what changed for him, and maybe we'll ask him in a video. I'll do a video with him. But that ultimately is how we decided to adopt. And I don't even know if I answered my own question of why we decided to adopt. So just in case I didn't answer my own question, ultimately for us, or for me, let me speak for myself, ultimately for me, I feel like adoption is a calling, and that sounds terrible, and a lot of people in the adoption world don't like that term, a calling. I mean, I think just because of the stigma that calling has on it, but I'm not speaking from the term of like a calling from the heavens above, but I do feel like it is something that is just simply placed in your spirit, that it is something, it's almost like a purpose where you feel like this is my purpose. Like, I have this purpose, I have this desire, this need to do this thing. And I feel like that is what adoption was, at least for me. It was almost like a purpose on my life. I used to say, you know, I want to change one person's life outside of my family. And so because adoption, they do become your family, but I think that desire to do that became my reason for adopting. So and then with the older children, I feel like older children is just that class of kids that are just forgotten about. You know, they're not the cute little babies, they're not the fun toddlers. So it is just this level of children that are just kind of forgotten about, and I wanted to come in and give those children a family and allow them to see that there can be, you know, this other life outside of what you have seen. And ultimately Black children, because, you know, a lot of Black families are broken, or there's no father in the home, or, you know, there's some form of struggle, and just all these different things. And what I wanted was for, you know, these older Black kids to see that, okay, I can be in a unified Black family and have a father and have a mother and have a healthy system to thrive in and to grow in, and that all the things I've seen before this moment is not how life has to be, because these kids have seen so much. So all the things I've seen, all the things I've known, there's this whole other life out there. There's more to just this of what I've seen and known. So ultimately that was my reason and my desire on why we wanted to adopt. So, or why I wanted to adopt. I keep saying we, I just clump him in there. Or why I wanted to adopt. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that answers today's topic and question. Again, I hope to daily or every other day, because you guys know how I am with the whole recording videos. This tea is delicious, y'all. But I do hope through the month of November to just discuss this topic of adoption and share our journey. So if you guys have any questions about it, or again, as we go through, please leave them in the comments below and I will try my best to answer them. And that's it. So if you've already subscribed to my channel, thank you so much. Thank you. If you haven't, please hit the little red button below and join me through the month of November as I talk about adoption, and also check out my reviews and other tidbits that I tend to talk about here on my channel. So thank you guys for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Cheers.